Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayavadiriya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So Prabhupada is in Nairobi and preaching and trying and motivating his disciples to preach further and further to the local people, not just to Indians. More local people should join. And he gave this slogan, work now, samadhi later. The word samadhi technically refers to a state of trance in which one is completely absorbed in Krishna and forgets the material world and all material desires. Generally, samadhi is thought of in terms of secluded meditation. A highly advanced yogi goes to a solitary, peaceful place and meditates or chants constantly. But Prabhupada demonstrated by his life's example that the world situation was too urgent for a devotee to retire and meditate. Rather, a devotee should labor hard to increase the Krishna consciousness movement. This would benefit both the devotee and the masses. Prabhupada's disciples, therefore, as servants of the spiritual master, should work now and later, perhaps in old age and spiritual maturity, they could retire to a holy place to constantly chant and hear about Krishna. So that's the formula he has given. But he himself didn't follow that in old age one can retire in a holy place. At age 75, he is traveling and preaching. And until yes, one becomes invalid, he cannot travel, then one should travel and preach. That's the purpose. Prabhupada emphasized work. Yet, what was that work? At least for Srila Prabhupada, propagating Krishna consciousness was samadhi itself. Samadhi didn't have to be limited to sitting in a solitary place. The full meaning of samadhi implied complete absorption in loving service of Krishna, with the senses, mind, and intelligence fixed in trance. Thus, in samadhi, one could be active, traveling, preaching, distributing back to Godhead magazines, chanting in the streets. If a devotee always thought of Krishna and worked on behalf of Krishna, then he was a topmost yogi. This had also been Lord Krishna's advice to Arjuna: remember me and at the same time fight. Srila Prabhupada was the emblem of active samadhi, always hearing about, glorifying and remembering Krishna, and always fighting as a soldier on behalf of Lord Chaitanya. So that was Prabhupada's mood, and that should be his followers' mood also. So when we are working for Krishna, whether we are preaching, Sankirtan, or even cooking or cleaning in the temple or doing any service, the inner mood is, I'm doing this for Krishna. So that is real samadhi actually. One is in samadhi, one is serving and thinking of Krishna always. Arjuna was given such a hard, difficult task because he was such a pure devotee. Remember me and at the same time fight. Now, how many people can we think of thinking of Krishna as a service to Krishna, fighting in war? And he had to kill his grandfather, his teacher, his cousins, his nephews, other relatives. But this was the instruction for Arjuna. Of course, we are not in that stage or in that situation of Arjuna. But at least, even if we are not actively serving Krishna, like doing active service, but passive service, like even if we have a job or a business to take care of. So idea is, we should be thinking of Krishna. He has given me this responsibility. He has given me the intelligence to take care of this responsibility. And the results of the work, of course, we cannot give all the money to Krishna service. Some do, But whatever results of the work I can donate for Krishna, I'll do that. So that's what Krishna consciousness is. Every time, all the time, favorably serving, thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna. That's all. Prabhupada's preaching in Nairobi had been especially active. He had established Krishna consciousness in a new city, setting the example for Brahmanand Swami to emulate, showing the standard for spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the continent. And Shamsundar was keeping his GBC God brothers informed of Prabhupada's amazing activities. The pace has been lightning fast, and His Divine Grace is opening up yet another vast theater of operations. The people are thronging with curiosity and serious questions. Prabhupada, after finishing one late night preaching marathon, asked for food and remarked, "You see, I'm hungry. Keep me talking. That is my life. Don't let me stop talking." So I'm hungry. So means he is healthy. If he is hungry, means he is healthy. So for him, the real engagement is let him preach. But Nairobi was only one city in one country on one continent, and Prabhupada's desire was to see Krishna consciousness in every city, town, and village in the world. How could he do it in one lifetime, traveling to every city in the world, printing and distributing books in every language, constructing fabulous temples? He couldn't. But he wanted to do as much as possible in whatever time Krishna allotted to him to ensure that the Krishna consciousness movement would survive. He criticized the politicians' typical attitude that unless they themselves remained active, everything they had worked for would crumble. So yes, that happens in politics. But Prabhupada wanted to establish something that would carry on even in his absence. Such politicians were always reluctant to retire, preferring to remain in office until their last breath. Of course, their politicians also fear is if they don't remain active, then people will just forget them, throw them away, put them aside and move on. But spiritual master is different. Prabhupada, however, had no personal ambition, and he knew that results were awarded by Krishna. As a true sannyasi, he had renounced the world and worldly ambition, but he had not become lazy. He was executing his mission at an advanced age, and Lord Krishna was rewarding his attempts. Prabhupada, therefore, in the mood of reciprocating with Krishna, kept working to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Knowing that Lord Krishna wanted the world flooded with love of God, Srila Prabhupada had earnestly tried to do so, beginning in a storefront in New York City, and Krishna had responded, sending him a few men and enough money to pay the rent. Then Srila Prabhupada had attempted to do more, and again Krishna had responded. Thus a second ISKCON center, and a third and a fourth, and more had sprung up, and book printing had begun. Srila Prabhupada, in the mood of loving reciprocation with Krishna, just kept attempting more and more. And Krishna did respond. Krishna said, "Ye yatha mam prapadyante," Krishna says, "Tan satam vajamyam." As person approaches me, I reward him accordingly. So we just have to do our part. And in fact, in our case, another advantage is not just Krishna. We also have Prabhupada who can take care of us. Well, it's not an ordinary personality. He can take care. And if he petitions on our behalf to Krishna, "Hey, Krishna, this devotee is working very hard. Please help." Krishna has to help. So that way we have a bigger advantage. But look at Prabhupada. He was and opening centers, temples all over, and Krishna responded by sending money, people to take care of those centers and the preaching movement further. Like once the Shamsundar Prabhu, in one of his videos, Prabhupada Memories videos, he was speaking that in San Francisco, they had rented a small place, small storefront, and somehow they didn't have money to pay the rent. And the landlord had said that you have to vacate the place. It's not like India, once you take a place, you don't get out. America is different. So Shyamchandra was worried, I'm going to arrange the money, I have to do something. And he was worried, and he was walking on the street where the temple is. And he just took a turn. He had to take a turn. And he saw, literally, he said it in the video. He said the dollars were coming down, pouring down. And he couldn't see anybody. Where are the dollars? Where's the money coming from? But he just started collecting whatever he could. And everything he collected, and he came back and he paid the rent. Now, where the money came from, he doesn't know. So Krishna can really help if only thing he wants to see how sincere, how serious, how dedicated we are. That's all. And as Prabhupada said, Krishna, if he wants, he can give us the whole world. It depends. What are we going to do with it? Now it was no longer simply one person's work. Srila Prabhupada was entrusting the work to his disciples. And those disciples, if they were actually to help, they have to adopt Prabhupada's selfless dedication. As they tried to follow him in his expansive plans, however, their minds faltered. For a handful of devotees to maintain even one temple in one city was a big job. Yet Prabhupada was doing this 100 times over. He wanted the movement he had started to continue for thousands of years, and he was confident that as long as his followers remained pure, working within the guidelines he had given, they would be successful. And that's the guarantee he has given. Although the present age of Kali was the worst of all the ages, in which people had little or no interest in spiritual life, Prabhupada had faith in the past Acharya's predictions that Krishna consciousness was destined to enter a golden age of worldwide influence. True, it was the worst of times, yet by the influence of the holy name of Krishna, it would become the best of times. The chanting of the holy name was a religion of the age. The people of Kali Yuga could find deliverance simply in chanting Hare Krishna. So the chanting, he had full faith in chanting. And that's why he stressed on chant of the holy names. Ultimately, this is the religion of the age, and chanting holy names, not different from Krishna. They can reward everything. Krishna can reward everything. Srila Prabhupada's activities show he was empowered by Krishna. This is evident from his childhood, when at the age of 5, he held a Rath Yatra festival. And it is certainly evident from these years, 1968 to 1971, when he actively expanded his Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada compared ISKCON to the Varaha incarnation of Krishna, who at first had been no bigger than a thumb, but had quickly expanded to half the size of the universe. So Varahadev, when he appeared, how did he appear? Brahmaji, Hiranyaksha had taken the earth down to the bottom of Garbhodakosha. And Brahmaji was doing the creation. He had species he had created. And then he turned and he saw the earth was gone. And he was so worried. Where did the earth go? He was worried, he was thinking. And when he was so worried, Varahadev, now Lord can do anything and everything. He is supremely independent. So Varahadev appeared from the nostril of Brahmaji. And as Prabhupada said, or it's written, no bigger than a size of a thumb. That's how big he was. And Brahmaji was looking, who is this creature? What is this happening? And then Varahadev became big, half the size of the universe. Then Brahmaji offered his prayers, and told him the problem, and Varahadev said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. So he brought the earth from the bottom of Garbhodakosha, and while he was bringing the earth up, Hiranyaksha challenged him, who are you? whatever abuses he could hurl at Varahadev. And later there was fight. Fight went on for a while. And then after a while, Varahadev, just with his hoof, he just touched the Ganpati, bottom of the ear of Hiranyaksha. He killed him. But this is a Prabhupada compared ISKCON to Varaha incarnation. So the beginning was what? 26 Second Avenue, the matchless gifts, and now it is expanding everywhere. ISKCON's rapid growth was not simply due to rapid communications and modern travel, nor to its founder Acharya's material organizational abilities. Prabhupada, judged materially, was not a likely person to conduct a worldwide movement, to travel vigorously, to write volumes of books, and to train thousands of disciples on every continent. He was satisfied with the simple, regulated life, and he disdained all such cultural items as music, fashion, sports, politics, art, food, anything not related to Krishna. He worked and traveled out of an intense desire to benefit the world with real culture, to implant spiritual culture in what to him was a desert of a materialistic society. So that's all he wanted to do. And because of his purity, his desires, Krishna fulfilled his desires. Therefore, accepting that Prabhupada was not materialistically ambitious, we can understand his proclivity for worldwide propaganda and dissemination of a spiritual movement as entirely transcendental. He was acting solely to carry out the desires of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada saw himself as servant of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whose message he was carrying. That message, which was also the message of Lord Krishna, had come down through disciplic succession. We are all spiritual souls, eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. We have now fallen into forgetfulness and a suffering, birth after birth, in this material world. By chanting Hare Krishna, we can revive our lost relationship with God. Simple message here. Very powerful, very sublime. With Prabhupada's first success in America, few of his god brothers in India had minimized his work. Bhaktivedanta Swami, they had said, happened to have a temperament suited to mixing with lower class Western youth. The fact, however, as Prabhupada's own experience testified, was that the young people among whom he preached were not particularly receptive, nor had he arrived timely and welcome. Simply to discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam to throngs of submissive disciples. He had been successful because of his great patience, tolerance, and compassion. And that he had plenty of, plenty of. It was not therefore the advent of the jet plane, although Prabhupada gladly took advantage of it, nor was it happenstance, nor luck, not even a social or historical phenomenon that enabled Prabhupada to spread Vedic culture from east to west and back again. No, it was the will of Krishna and the sincerity of his servant. Chaitanya Charitamrita states that unless one is possessed of Krishna Shakti, special power from God, one cannot propagate the chanting of the holy name. Kali kalera dharma Krishna nama sankirtan. Krishna Shakti vina nahi tara pravartan. The fundamental religious system in the age of Kali is the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Unless empowered by Krishna, one cannot propagate the Sankirtan movement. This verse describing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also describes Lord Chaitanya's servant, Srila Prabhupada. Had Srila Prabhupada not been empowered by Krishna, he could not have inspired so many people all over the world, not just in India, all over the world, to accept the chanting of Hare Krishna. According to Vedic literature, when a person has extraordinary spiritual endowment, Krishna Shakti, he is known as Shaktavesh Avatar. Although the word avatar generally refers to incarnations of God himself, the term Shaktavesh Avatar refers to an individual empowered by God to enact the mission of God in this world. Shaktavesh Avatar and their particular functions are mentioned in the Vedic literature. For example, the Emperor Prithu possessed the Shakti for God conscious administration. The four Kumaras possess the Shakti of transcendental knowledge. Narad Muni possesses the Shakti of devotion service. Lord Buddha, whose name and activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam, is also Shakti Avesh Avatar. And even other divinely empowered personalities outside the Vedic culture, such as Jesus Christ and Muhammad, are accepted by Vaishnava Acharyas as Shakti Avesh Avatars. We have different view of Islam, but here Prabhupada also mentioned Muhammad was empowered by Krishna. Empowered by Krishna or God, well, they say Allah, that is fine, to do God's work for a particular place, a particular group of people. Even when we studied Chaitanya Charitamrita, if we remember, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was traveling from Vrindavan to Kashi with his associates, some of his associates, he at one time, he was in so much of ecstasy, he fell down unconscious. And the other associates, Balbhadra Bhattacharya and others, they were taking care, tending to him. And at that time, a group of soldiers or dacoits, they came on horses. And they thought these people have killed this saintly person, because Mahaprabhu looked very, very saintly, obviously. Has killed saintly person and he must be having money, they must be trying to steal that money. And all the devotees said, no, 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 we are his servants. And he just fell down unconscious. And all those soldiers, they were Pathans. They said, no, 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 prove it to us. Then Mahaprabhu somehow came back to consciousness. And he told those soldiers that I have this disease called epilepsy, and sometimes I fall sick, and I have these caretakers who take care of me, and something like this. So seeing his nature, the Pathans, they were impressed, and they had a religious leader also with them, and he came forward and he had discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Quran. Mahaprabhu discussed Quran with him. And Mahaprabhu mentioned, and that leader also agreed, that we don't really read properly all the teachings of Quran. And he agreed that in Quran it is also mentioned that God has is bluish color body, and the real way of achieving God is by devotional service. He said it's mentioned in Quran also. It's written in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It just people have different interpretations, and that creates havoc, actually. Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna told Arjuna that I am giving this knowledge to you because in time, I gave the knowledge to Sun God, and now I'm giving it to you because the real message was lost over time. So the message, the real message of Quran, I have not read Quran, but looks like it has been lost. And that's where the problem happens. Similarly, real message of Bible is also lost because of New Testament and this and then and so many interpretations and additions and this and that. The real message is lost. But this is what Prabhupada wanted to establish through his books. He said these are the books, the law books of mankind for the next 10,000 years. Only thing, we have to keep the message intact, understand it properly without interpreting it, and distribute it properly. There's message is very clear in Prabhupada's books. Because we have to read them, we have to understand, no interpretations. and then distribute it. So the real message remains intact. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare
Mata.
Krishna.
You all have safe and wonderful day. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna. Jai
Prabhuji.
Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhu.